Ja, herzlich willkommen zu Mission Safety Digital at A+A.
Welcome to Mission Safety Digital at A+A. Now, for those of you who've just looked in for the first time, I'd like to give you a special welcome because the rest of you have maybe heard us this morning. I'd like to start with a few technical bits of information for you. We have in the back office some colleagues of mine who are very eager to hear your questions and to answer them. We've also got competent experts in front of the camera who can also answer your questions. Otherwise, for this session, you need a QR code capable mobile phone, and you can also send an email. You can download this and start, and in this way you can communicate with us, ask us questions, give us proposals. After the session, it's probably best to use the email which you see down below. But before we start, I just want to show you this.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen.
Hello, welcome to this year's A+A.
Ja, und da sind wir schon wieder zurück. Jetzt nochmal
So here we are. Again, welcome to Mission Safety Digital at the A+A. We're going to talk now about demographic change and how this affects protection equipment. We have a lot of things prepared for you. We're going to use the Do session here, which is the intimate form of address in German, which has no relevance for English. I'd like to introduce myself for all those new. Kim Pietz is my name. I'm event manager for Dräger in Munich, and I'm going to conduct you through this session this morning. I'd like a few words about the hygiene concept. Now, we don't have masks here behind the camera, but for us, this what we call the 3G rule of those who are tested, who have recovered from the disease, and who are vaccinated. They don't need to wear masks. We're going to go back later to the trade fair booth, where my colleagues there are going to give us some new information. And for those of you who have just logged in for the first time, we have a very brief introduction. And first I want to go over to my colleague Ingrid in Berlin. She's the artist. For those now who are new to us, could you tell us very briefly about yourself? Ingrid Benze is my name. I'm an illustrator in Berlin, and I'm drawing this day. That is, I'm going to record the day's events with drawings for you. You were, Ingrid, you were present at the welcoming session. For those of us who weren't there, could you show us briefly what you've prepared? Yes, these are the few pictures that I prepared for the last session. Not all of them, but you see, that's the kind of picture I make when I record a presentation. This is Kim's studio, and then the signposts showing where we're going to go today and tomorrow to the various sessions. Okay, great. Thank you, Ingrid. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of pictures you gain from, or you're inspired to create from this session. So have fun now. Preparing our pictures. We have competent support here in our studio, and that's why I'm going to go over here now to this moderation corner. Here's my colleague Dennis. Hi, Dennis. Great that you're here to speak to us today. Tell us what you do for Dräger now. Dennis Beisch. I'm product marketing manager for the region Germany for light breathing protection and body protection. Today, Dennis, we're going to talk about demographic change. And I remembered the phrase from my geography lessons as kids, but I think it now means something else. Dennis, yes, I think a lot of people think of what you said, you know, that it's just, first of all, the aging population is one thing. But before we get into that, I'd like to ask the viewers, have you any idea, any estimate of the average age in your company? That's what I'd be very interested in finding out. Okay, great. Now, if you want to respond, you'll need your QR code. I'm going to show it to you now. So you just have to scan this, and then you can communicate directly with us and give us your answers to this question, what the average age of the workforce is in your company. Do you think, in estimate, approximately? Okay, here you see the QR code. You can scan that with your mobile phone. And you can keep that because we're going to need that several times again today and tomorrow. And I see here the first numbers coming in from the average age. So let's just wait a moment, see if that stabilizes a bit while the data comes in. I don't know if that really represents our society, but at least it represents those who are feeding us their information. You see the lowest is 32, the highest is 60, I see, and that does reflect more or less what we have seen in relation to this changing age structure in companies. And when we talk about demographic change, it's not only age that's important, but also other aspects like multilingual teams that result from globalization and becoming more and more important. There are also certain psychological but also physical strains on people because people work much more, and that of course depends on the person's age, how well they can manage that. And then of course the gender balance is another thing, and the educational level. Great, so keep feeding us information again. If you have any proposals, questions, send them in. Now, Dennis, I'd like to ask you, how do these aspects influence the industry? Well, basically, industrial operations, but actually all operations, all businesses are affected by that, because when the staff is getting older, you must also see we also have a shortage of specialists and key trained personnel. And also companies are interested in keeping aging workers because they're trained, they're experienced. So obviously, if a person is, let's say, 60 or 65, he's not as physically fit as somebody was when he was 25. So there are different requirements, different demands in terms of protective clothing and apparel and face masks. And that's all very important for us when we're developing products. We have to make sure we take account of these changes. Anything else that we have to take account of as manufacturers in this regard? Well, I think the most important thing is that we realize what the normal everyday working life is for all of our customers, and that we design this in such a way that it's as easy as possible. So as much protection as possible, as little strain as possible. It doesn't help me if I've got really a lot of protection, but at the same time there's heat, temperature rises within the system. I don't feel good. I feel psychologically or physically strained by this protective system. That's no benefit to me. So it has to do both. Give you protection, but also make life easier for you. Anything else that we have to look out for, and what changes have we seen? Well, the aspects that I've mentioned are very important. You can see them here on this on these images. We have to make sure that the fit is right. We have to find ways of attracting younger people, maintaining older people, and keeping people physically and psychologically in good form. Remember, as an employer, you have to make sure that your workers are protected adequately and provide the necessary equipment. And of course, every owner has to work in a profitable way, and that can very often pull against this other need for protection. And that's why we have to always make sure that with our products, with our systems, we achieve a satisfactory level that gives the best of both worlds for everybody. How can Dräger support employers in this regard? Well, we have many different solutions, a wide variety. One is staffing. Let's say if you're in a company, but because of sickness or for any other reason, you don't have the kind of specialist that you want, or you don't have your full team, then we can provide the trained personnel, and then you can maintain your productivity and your level of your operations. And of course, we can also give our products too, at short notice too. Is that really all products that we offer in terms of safety technology? Dennis, yes, of course it is, but demographic change is something that we've been focusing on for the last few years. And I think now all of the products that we've been developing over the last few years, since we took up this new focus, have been very much taken on board the considerations and the factors caused by this generation change. Now it affects really all products. You know, all products that we are now developing have to be developed according to these factors of demographic change. For example, we have the Explorer 1900. From the very beginning, we introduced this in 2 sizes, and this provides a key benefit. First of all, it fits every face. It will fit exactly your face, and as you see, as people see, your face has got a different shape than mine. Some faces are smaller, narrower, some are stronger, and so we need the masks for that. But also another product is the Expo 2000. You can have that with a visor, with a helmet, or with a hood. It can be combined with these additional equipments, and this releases us then from certain stipulations and restrictions, because there's no breathing resistance there, so you can dispense with fulfillment of other regulations, and that's a very, very big advantage. Now, the protective suits, there is also the item of noise. Does that explain that too? Yes, well, I think the video explains it. Okay, then let's have a look at the video. This is the noise now coming from the movement of the suit.
Ja, cooler Film.
Okay, nice film. You can also see this on our YouTube channel. For those of you who haven't had enough of that, you can go to YouTube and check it out, Dräger. What do you say to that, Dennis? Well, it's always interesting to see it, you know. We have comparable normal standard suit, that's the gray one, and then the Dräger suit 5500, and I think you can see, or you can rather hear, that ours is twice as low, like we've got half the decibel level of the first one. And this aspect of the noise level that flows into work, and if you can influence this effect by introducing new material like we did, it just means that there's much less burden on workers. They can it facilitates communication between workers, and it gets rid of this unnecessary noise. Okay, now you've talked about a lot of different products. I'd like to see what participants outside, what they use in terms of protective equipment. So again, just scan, those of you who haven't already done so, scan the QR code and enter your answers. So we'll be interested in seeing what kind of responses we're going to get. Again, the question is, what kind of protective equipment do you use?
Genau, der eine oder andere muss vielleicht noch kurz
I
überlegen.
think some people
Vielleicht
maybe
ist es auch so vielseitig, dass
want
man nicht
to
genau weiß, was man jetzt
need to
aufschreibt.
take time. Maybe the question is very broad or a bit too broad actually.
So, ich sehe, da
Okay,
kommt
but
schon
we
das
are-
erste Bild eingetrudelt.
We already are
Ah,
getting
jetzt
some
steht schon der
feedback.
Halbmaske,
kleine
CSA.
Wortwolke.
So the half mask,
Pharmaprodukt, ja,
CSA,
das ist natürlich auch eine Art von
helmets,
Was sagst du dazu?
the
Dennis?
warm pullover, somebody said. Well, I
Also
suppose
hier
that's
zeigt sich
protection
ganz
too.
deutlich in dieser
But here you
Workout,
can see
Helm,
very
FFP,
clearly
sind
that the
beide
helmet
Begriffe, die ja
and the FFP
definitiv
mask are
miteinander
definitely the two
Aber
prominent
insgesamt sehen wir, dass es nicht nur vielleicht
terms
Atemschutzprodukte
here,
sind,
but
sondern
we see it's
insgesamt
not just
Körperschutzprodukte,
breathing
Handschutz, Fußschutz,
protection, but
Kopfschutz,
actually a
also
body
alles
protection,
Mögliche,
hand
wo wir uns
protection,
letztendlich
foot,
als Träger, als Trägerin
head,
schützen müssen.
everything
Gerade
that we
im
as manufacturer
FFP-Bereich
have
durch die
to
letzten Monate und fast
provide
1,5 Jahre
protection
jetzt,
for. But especially
ist
FFP
das
now in the
natürlich ein
last
wichtiges
year and a
Thema,
half or
da
2
nochmal zu
years, it's become really,
sensibilisieren
really
und,
a very important
nachzuschauen,
issue, and it's
was
important that
wichtige
people
Qualitätsfaktoren
are
sind.
sensitive to the benefits of FFP
Wir
masks.
sind jetzt hier gerade noch sehr theoretisch unterwegs.
Okay, at the moment this is all very theoretical,
Unseren Messestand und,
but
da sind
I
auch
mentioned to
Kameras
you we also have a
mit am
trade
Start
fair
und Anna,
booth
da hat
here
heute Morgen auch
linked
schon
up,
die
and we've got a camera
Einleitungssession
team
mit,
there.
Stefan gemacht und wir sehen die
And
beiden hier schon im
Anita was
Hintergrund.
there
Hallo,
this
ihr
morning.
zwei.
We see them
Wir
there
freuen uns
again.
jetzt
Hi,
endlich mal in
you
die Praxis
guys.
zu gehen und sind gespannt, was
We
ihr
want
uns
to
aus dem
switch over to
Messestand
you
zu
now for a
zeigen
bit
habt.
of
Legt mal los.
practical feedback. Tell us about what's going on there. Thank you, Kim and Dennis. Well, we're not waiting for you in warm pullovers, but we don't have them here, but we have practically every other type of protection. Anneliese is my name. I'm responsible for communication and safety in Germany. And I'd like to introduce Luca Pohlmann here. I'm really glad, Luca, that you're here today as an expert and that you can tell us something about this protective equipment. Yes, again, from me, a warm welcome. Luca Pohlmann is my name. I'm product specialist in the sales region West for safety technology. And of course, there's a lot happening here, I think I can tell you, but you know, our manager Stefan was here, and the first discussions have taken place, and we've seen some very interesting topics raised. Well, that's really great to hear that it's running so well. But now to the topics themselves, because he wanted us to become more concrete. What do these FFP masks do in relation to the demographic change? Well, Dennis mentioned that briefly before. You know, we have our Explorer 9900. We've developed this mask. It's got 2 sizes, and at the end, it's got ultimately it fits really, really well, and that's exactly what we want to have. We all know from masks that maybe, you know, because of Corona, we've sometimes had to wear them in the supermarket or whatever. You know, it was difficult for people wearing glasses, especially. And that's why we developed the Explorer 9900 in 2 sizes with a 3-form design that gives a very secure, tight fit, and one that's appropriate for every face, no matter what the shape and size of the face. Now we have this protective glass here. That's FFP1 in yellow, FFP2 is marked orange, and you see FFP3 is in red. Now you can't maybe see this in the camera, but in the background, whenever something goes up orange, that's going to be, you flash up orange, you're going to see our workers here are wearing these FFP3 masks on site. So that's maybe a nice side effect for those of you. We have a complete band fit all the way around the head, which means that you don't have to take it off like these with the ear loops, but you simply let it hang around your neck and your shoulders, and that makes it very easy to replace and remove. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Now I see green letters there, marked new. We've got a novelty here. We mentioned this very briefly this morning, but I see new helmets. Maybe you can tell us more about them. Yes, I can definitely tell you more about them. Apart from the FFPs, we have the new helmet portfolio. And today we have the Explore 9000 and the compressed air line system. But I think you've got a film for me about this. Yes, exactly. Because these products are so new, I'm going to show you a teaser trailer. So let's go.
Ja, das sah doch schon mal ziemlich robust
Yes,
aus.
that definitely looked very robust and secure and reliable. But of course, that's not the only special thing about this helmet. Yes, I have a few more sentences to say about this helmet portfolio. You see a total 8 new helmet systems and a protective visor. You can see quite well that we have different variations here, with some with hood, some without it. Neck, ceiling, shoulder cover. We've really everything here. And some of you will maybe ask about what about this powered filter systems and FFPs, demographic change, you know, all of these things. Where do they link up? What's the connection there? Well, I think most of us will have gone upstairs maybe with FFP masks or had to wear it for a long time, and that's the problem. You know, air resistance, you have that in the FFP mask, and after a while it gets a bit difficult, especially if you're doing something strenuous. We talked also about demographic change. That means the population is getting older, there's pollution and chemicals at workplace, whatever, and we still have to wear these protections. So for people like who don't want this strain from air resistance, then we have these helmets. So this means you can work for a much longer time without any strain. And the variations that we've brought now to the market are so unique. We have various materials, Tycon 3000, 4000, and a new material here that resists mechanical strain better. And of course, another important factor in the FFP, we only have breathing protection, but a new portfolio we've breathing protection, head protection, also eye protection, all in one. So for long-term work with a need for breathing protection, it's the ideal product, and so many different ranges to meet your specific requirements. And you can, of course, combine these individually with different features. Exactly, we can. Okay, now the splash protection suits are over there. We saw them in a film, and we saw that ours are significantly less loud. Yes, Dennis mentioned a few times, we've seen a video too. You know, this is the SP4000. You can feel it, you know, this is the new material. We have 2 new materials on the market. One is CPM and the other CLF material. And the CLF, Dennis mentioned that in the studio just a while ago. This is 50% lower decibel range than the standard suit. And of course, you know, in the environment, noise is a very important thing. Temperature also. Remember that the strain on the wearer in terms of noise, the way it's proper fitting and pressure has to be made as easy as possible for the wearer. That's our goal always. Now we're going to look at the SPC 4700 that will soon be on the market. That again, it's with ventilation, so it allows you to get into this spray protection, chemical protection suit. That means you can walk freely or move freely around in it. You don't need any mouth protection. And you've got a flow of air all the way through it inside. Okay, so that makes it very special. Thank you very much. We're going to say bye-bye now, just for a moment, but we'll see you soon again. Bye now. Great, thank you very much, you two. They were great pictures. As you said, we're going to see you again very soon. Dennis, that was really the main focus was on personal protection. Anything else, any other consequences of demographic change? Yes, as I said, it really affects everything that we're trying to do in Dräger, our products, our service, but also in gas detection services. We have arranged them now that they're configured only with 3 buttons. That means that they can be as intuitive as possible, as easy to use as possible. It couldn't be more simpler. We have separate menus that you can make certain fittings and save them for future use according to the user. And another area of demographic change, related to demographic change, is digitization. Of course, we all know about that to some degree at the moment, and we have to change our lives accordingly. We too. We have, for example, a system, Gas Detection Connect, where devices are connected, linked to each other through Bluetooth, and then all the data is collected in a cloud decentrally, and it can be accessed and analyzed and processed at any time from any location. And this just then allows us to give our customers networking for all of their data. Yes, there's, you talked about intuitive menu control and language. What can you set in it? Well, you can set, let's say, alarms for certain limit values, like at what point does an acoustic signal or a vibration signal or maybe a visual signal is triggered, at what level. Language, of course, you mentioned, you have to switch on the, or speech, you have to switch it on and off. And of course, when I switch it on, it's going to ask me for which language I want to select, because of course, in the global world, there's so many languages going around on all these production plants. For all the different people in your works, everybody will know how he has to operate this device after setting it for his own specific language, the language he's most comfortable with. Okay, good. Now, talking about language, I think we can maybe make another brief survey at that point. So I'd like to turn to the viewers again with your QR code. Scan this and give us back the information. You see the questions, or the question here, how many different languages are spoken in your working environment? So again, just open the tool. That's the Voxar tool, and then enter the appropriate data. Now we see. It's quite a mixed picture, Dennis. What do you think of that? Well, I think the more participants take part in this evaluation, we see how everything changes. Here you see definitely over three languages in the businesses, definitely predominates. You can imagine 3 languages is not so many, but very often the languages are very different. Like some languages like Italian and Spanish are maybe similar enough for some person to follow the instructions in one, but if they're totally different languages from different language families, it's all the more difficult and all the more important that everybody can follow it in his own language. So the 47% I see now with more than 3 languages in their company, and I think the more global we become, the more languages will be required. Okay, I'd like now to switch back to the to our booth and see what they have to say, tell us. Dennis, I think that really reflects what we experience here at the train fair. Of course, it's not as global as it used to be, because a lot of people are still held back by travel restrictions because of the pandemic. But still, it's a big mixed bunch we have here. Now, safety at the trade fair here, how do you think that relates to demographic change? Thank you again for the brief introduction to our system. What I can show you here on this map is our new gas detection connect system. That's the map of live monitoring, and with digitization, you know, that generates a certain skepticism with a lot of people. You know, they think everything is getting more complicated. How can we do it? But our motto was always digitization, yes, but keep it easy. Always keep it easy, and that's what we want to do here. Now with this gas detection connect, it's again very, very easy. You can use simple Bluetooth, and I don't know if you can get so close, but you see they all have Bluetooth. They're all running through Bluetooth now, connected. With mobile phones, everything is connected to a cloud, and that allows you decentral monitoring, and you can get all your measuring values presented to you here in one glance. And of course, everybody who has access to this data can see the whole thing together. And even despite languages, I think everybody can recognize this, no matter what language they speak. Great, thanks. That's a very interesting solution, and it can be linked also to all our measuring equipment. Is that true? Yes. Now let's look at the 7,000 here. How does that relate to demographic change? Well, Dennis mentioned the intuitive use of the helmets and protection, gas protection. You see, we have here a polymetric sensor, and this measures the low values, very, very, very low values, and of course high values. It's only got 3 buttons for operation, and you must say this is our most complex. Some even have only 2 buttons. So you can see this, you know, we have here these micro tubes. You know, I think those of you who know Dräger will be familiar with them. But these items here are quite new, and you simply stick them in very easily like that, and then the rest is automatically read by the device. You see, this is a PPB value, and we have 3 values for going up to the higher. You see, that goes up like this, and then the microtubes come out again. So if you wish to switch it off, you simply have to click on OK for 3 seconds. If you go to the other settings on the menu point, you can go up or down like this, and then when you want to go back or turn the whole thing off again, hold for 3 seconds. And the whole thing is switched off like that. The device also make their own tests. It's all intuitive. Only 3 buttons. Everybody can understand it, irrespective of the language, whether you're a digital fan or not. We have here the 8000, XM8000. This is really the instrument for all purposes. Again, 3 buttons. Again, more or less controlled the same way as here. Like arrow up, arrow down, and OK for turning on, turning off. And I think that's more or less it, and it shows that it's everybody who does gas detection can actually operate these devices. So 3 buttons and sometimes only 2. Okay, you can see that the operation is child's play, even for somebody like me as an outsider. And I think for teams where they have multilingual participants, that's really going to be a big hit. Now back to the studio.
Ja, vielen Dank euch beiden. Danke Annalisa.
Thank you very
Dich
much
sehen
to
wir
the
später
two
noch mal
of
wieder.
you.
Und vielen Dank, Luca, für deine tollen Beiträge. Das waren
Also you,
wirklich,
Luca, for your
wieder
great
schöne
contribution.
Inhalte,
That
die
was
wir da gesehen haben.
really
Das war
great
ein,
content
cooler
we've seen
Überblick
there.
und ich schau mal kurz in die Regie rüber. Ich
Now
glaube, wir
let's
haben ein paar
look
Fragen.
back to
Lutz, komm doch mal zu mir und bring mir die Fragen.
our back office.
Dank.
Any questions here, Lutz? Yes.
Ach, sehr gut. Das sind 2 Fragen für dich, Dennis.
Okay, 2
Und zwar
questions
die
for you,
erste, ab wann
Dennis.
ist,
The
der
first one is
Explore 8000 Helm verfügbar?
the Explore
Genau. Also alles, was wir jetzt hier
8000.
eben
When will that be
gezeigt
available?
bekommen
That's the
haben von
helmet.
Annalisa und Luca, diese
Well, everything we've
verschiedenen
seen from
Varianten
Annalisa and
sind
Luca,
ab
these different
sofort
variations
verfügbar.
are all
Das heißt,
already
gerne den
available.
Fachhändler des Vertrauens
So you can call your dealer
oder sonst auch eine
and
E-Mail an die
they're already
E-Mail-Adresse
available, or send
wohin
an
der
email
gezeigt
simply
hat,
to the
schicken,
email
wenn
address we
Adresse ist. Aber wie gesagt,
we
ab
showed
sofort
before.
kann das alles losgehen.
And all of these things
Und
are
dann
now
habe ich noch
available
eine zweite
immediately.
Frage zu den FFPs.
Next question about the FFPs. Where do we
Wir
produce
sind ein
them?
global aufgestelltes
Well, we're a
Unternehmen, daher
global
produzieren wir auch
company
global.
and we
Was
produce
ich aber
also
ganz klar
globally.
hervorheben möchte,
But I want to
die
point
meisten
out that
Varianten
most of these variations
produzieren wir in Europa.
of these
Das heißt,
FFP masks are
beispielsweise
produced in
Frankreich
Europe,
oder in Schweden.
for example in
Und
France or in
aufgrund,
Sweden.
der letzten
And
Erfahrungen, die
because
wir über die
of the
Monate
recent
gesammelt
experience
haben,
we've had with these
die
people over the last few
Produktion
months,
in der Europäischen Union ein ziemlich wichtiges Thema.
we see that production in the
Und deswegen
European
sind wir sehr,
Union
sehr stolz,
is
dass wir
very,
da
very
schon
important.
vorher einer der Vorreiter waren.
And that's why I think it's
Ja,
we
vielen
can look
Dank für
back
eure
with
Fragen.
pride at the
Stellt
fact
doch
that we were
gerne weiterhin
trailblazers in
Fragen
this
im
regard.
Chat. Wie gesagt, ihr seht,
Okay,
die kommen
great.
hier
Thank
bei
you
uns
for the
an. Wir
questions. As you
beantworten,
see, the
gerne all
questions
eure Fragen.
reliably
Nutzt
are
gerne
delivered
diese
to us, and we're going to be
Ich würde
pleased
sagen, wir
to
sind durch mit dem Thema, aber
answer
bevor
them.
wir richtig abschließen,
Okay, now
schreiben
we're
wir noch mal
finished with
nach
this
der
subject, but
Ingrid.
before we
Und, da bin ich mal gespannt, was
close,
sie
I'd like to go
für eine
back to
Zusammenfassung
Ingrid
präsentiert. Hallo
and
Ingrid.
see how she has illustrated
Welcome
the information we've seen
Hallo, ihr
so far.
Na,
Hi, you guys.
ich hoffe,
Nice
du
to
hast
see
die
you
Session,
again.
spannend verfolgt.
Ingrid, I hope
Zeig
you were
uns doch
following
mal,
it
was
with
du
the same
so
interest as I
Wir
was,
sind ganz gespannt.
but you had to work at the same
Ich
time.
zeige euch mal, was ich hier
Yes, and
gemacht
I'm going to
habe.
show you
Und zwar,
now
ich
what
bin
I
ja
did.
Illustratorin, das heißt,
I'm an
ich
illustrator.
kenne mich
That
nicht
means
mit Technik
I
aus,
don't
ich kenne
know
mich
so
nicht
much
mit
about technology.
demografischem Wandel
I don't
aus,
know
aber
so
ich habe
much about
trotzdem
demographic
versucht, den
change, but
ganzen
I try to
Bilder
follow
zu
the whole
geben.
thing
Das zeige ich
and
euch
try
mal.
to put that in pictures for you. I'll show you the results.
Aus dem Erdkunde
You know,
gesprochen,
we
ne?
talked
Die
about
Pyramiden.
geography
Und ich
lessons in
bin,
the school, like the
sieht ja
age
immer
pyramid,
schon so
the way
aus
it's
wie
going, and
zwei
I often
Menschen.
find it looks like two faces, you know,
Ja,
like a Janus head.
es ist ja eher so ein
And
Stereotyp, dass die
it's,
älter werdende Gesellschaft,
of course, you
die
know,
Oma
it's a bit
auf
of a
der Couch
stereotype
ist,
that
die
the
die
aging
Decke hebt,
population, you know,
sondern
becomes
dass das
inactive,
ja
that granny
Fachpersonal
is
ist, die
just sitting in the
gebraucht
couch.
werden,
But
die
no,
wahrscheinlich
the
auch
aging people are
gebraucht werden
now
möchten und deren
specialists, they're
Expertise
experts, and we
man
need them
möglichst
for
lange
their
halten
know-how.
möchte.
And
Nur, dass
we
wie
want to
ja
keep
gesagt
them
hat,
in
man auch
the
die
production
physischen
process as much as
Voraussetzungen
possible. But for that
muss bei
purpose,
den
of course, we
Menschen,
have to
was zum Beispiel
provide the
Studienfunktion
proper
angeht. Und
physical
ich bin
and
Riesenfan von
psychological
den 3
conditions
Knöpfen übrigens, muss ich sagen.
and
Also,
all
das
their
schaue ich
protection.
nicht
And I
so
must
ganz
say,
genau,
I'm a big fan of the 3 button
Gasmessen.
system
Aber
in principle you
zurück,
have, because
dazu.
it's just
Ich
just right for
lasse mich
my
ja selber überraschen,
capability
wenn ich
with
eure Inhalte sehe
IT
und lasse
systems.
mich selber überraschen, was für
So,
Bilder gebe ich denen. Und mir war zum Beispiel
I was
überhaupt
thinking
nicht
about what
bewusst, was
picture
man
I should
bei
give
diesen
you, and I wasn't
Schutzanzügen
quite sure about
beachtet.
what
Mir war nicht bewusst, dass
protective
es
suits
sowas wie
I
eine
should
Passform gibt
show
oder
you. You know, I
dass
didn't
man
know
auch
anything about
Temperatur
fitting
achten muss.
forms or temperature
Und natürlich
inside the
mein
suit.
Highlight war euer
I wasn't aware of that.
Lautstärke. Also das
And of
war mir
course, then
überhaupt nicht
noise
klar
was
als
something that
Illustratorin.
was
Ich sitze hier am
totally new
Schreibtisch,
to me.
auch
I'm
mit
an
einem warmen
illustrator.
Pulli, by the way.
I sit at my desk with a warm pullover, I have to say. And I just wasn't aware of the fact that noise and decibel level is an issue with such protection. Also, I wasn't really aware of the need for various languages, and that's why I've added a few here. And so, I hope they've at least amused you, and now back to you. Great, thank you, Ingrid. They're really great pictures, and I'm looking forward to what else you've got to show us and create for us when we inspire you to such minor works of art. Thank you. Okay, now we're at the end. Maybe a few words to conclude.
Ich glaube, wir haben auch durch unsere Voxer-Umfragen
Well,
ganz klar gesehen,
I think
wie
our
breit
Voxer
das Thema ist.
Survey
Und
has
hat auch sehr
shown
schön
how
illustriert,
broad
dass
this
es so
subject
viele
is, and Ingrid
Aspekte
illustrated it
die
really
den
well. I think
demografischen
just
Wandel
how
beeinflussen.
wide this
Man kann es gar nicht an
issue
ein,
of
zwei Punkten
demographic changes. What influences it, and what does that in turn influence? You know, I think for everybody, for manufacturers, for companies, for operators in this business, you know, I think it's very, very important for them to understand that you have to take the entire range of issues here into account. And if anybody needs support, needs advice, just simply get in contact with us. We've really accumulated a lot of experience over the last few years. And if anybody wants to know about air resistance and breathing resistance, noise level, decibel level, psychological stress, please just simply get in contact. Also, if anybody wants more detailed information, check out our homepage. If you want to have a look at specific information, more details, just check out the homepage, our website. Otherwise, contact your dealer. You can see the products, you can try them out. And but again, I'd just like to refer first and foremost to our website, where you'll see all this information. Thank you very much, Dennis, for this very interesting session. We're going to see each other again at 1 o'clock. So again, as I said, we're going to see you again at 1 o'clock. I hope you'll be there when we talk about easy breathing protection this afternoon. But to conclude, we have a very short video to show you.